In 1805, a 22-year-old Bostonian named Frederick Tudor made a bet with his brother that you could ship ice from New England down to the tropics and actually sell it. He had turned down Harvard, his father financed him, and when ship owners refused to carry the cargo, he bought a brig called the Favorite, outright for $4,750, which was nearly half of the $10,000 he had raised. On the 10th of February in 1806, the Boston Gazette reported the departure with 2 words, "No joke," noting that a vessel had cleared customs for Martinique with a cargo of ice and hoping it would not prove to be a slippery speculation. It failed, but not for the reason you would guess. The ice actually made the crossing just fine. What Tudor did not have was an ice house at the other end, and his suggestion to buyers was that they take it home and wrap it in blankets, so he lost $4,500, and 3 more shipments to Cuba lost even more. By 1812, he was bankrupt and sitting in debtor's prison. The fix was not a better product, it was infrastructure. He started building ice houses at the destinations first. He secured a monopoly from the Spanish governor of Cuba. He built an ice house in Havana, and in January of 1807, the Trident sailed there with 180 tons. By the 1830s, he was shipping all the way to Calcutta, a journey of 16,000 miles and 4 months at sea, and he loaded 180 tons, of which 80 tons melted, and he still turned a profit. The industry he created got enormous. The first federal report on it was not even commissioned until 1879, which tells you how invisible it was to the government, and when it finally arrived, it estimated an annual American harvest of 8 to 10 million tons. New York City alone consumed about 1 million tons a year. With breweries as the biggest buyers, Chicago took 580,000 for meatpacking, and Boston and Philadelphia took just under 400,000 each. By mid-century, 135 commercial ice houses lined the Hudson between New York and Albany, and according to the New England Historical Society, in the run-up to the Civil War, American ships carried more tonnage of ice than any commodity except cotton. Ice was one answer, and canning was the other. In 1795, the French government offered 12,000 francs to anyone who could preserve food for its armies and navies, and a Paris confectioner named Nicolas Appert, a man with no scientific training whose previous careers included candy maker, vintner, brewer, and pickle maker, spent 14 years working on it. His method was food sealed in corked glass jars reinforced with wire and wax, then boiled, which was effectively sterilization, decades before Pasteur explained in 1864 why it even worked. He exhibited it in 1806 and won no awards, but the French Navy tested 18 items at sea for over 4 months, including partridge, vegetables, and gravy, and Appert reported that nothing had changed, so he collected the prize and published in 1810. That is what worked, and now here is what happened when it did not. Before refrigerated rail, fresh milk could not travel, so dairies moved right into the city, specifically into whiskey distillery sheds in Manhattan and Brooklyn, where cows were fed the hot, leftover mash. The animals were confined, diseased, and ulcerated, so much so that they were called stump-tail cows, and the milk came out thin, watery, and bluish, then got corrected with water, eggs, flour, plaster, molasses, and chalk. The New York Times reported nearly 8,000 infant deaths a year in New York, recorded under period labels like cholera infantum and marasmus. On the 8th of May in 1858, Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper ran a 5,000-word expose that called the distillers milk murderers, distributing liquid poison. And its reporter wrote that for those who murder our children by the thousands, we have neither reprobation nor punishment. The illustrations, published a week later, are the reason anyone still remembers it, and one caption describes cows too diseased to stand being held upright by mechanical means and milked until they died, with that milk going in with the rest. There is a detail that closes the loop perfectly, because hundreds of tons of manure were being dumped daily into the Hudson and East Rivers, and one distillery barn drained its manure straight into the water, and the water they used to dilute the milk came from that same river. There is a complication worth knowing, though, because it is more honest. Walt Whitman's Brooklyn Daily Times pushed back, saying it had never favored the swill milk trade, but that Leslie's denunciations were overdone, and his pictures were largely disgusting caricatures, and it noted that the rotting tails evidence was weak, since tail problems showed up in any stable, packed with confined cows regardless of what they ate. Leslie was substantially right about a genuine public health catastrophe, and he was also running a sensationalist circulation campaign, and both of those things are true. New York State issued milk regulations in 1862.
This is the story of how humanity kept food from killing it before refrigeration existed, and it runs from a bankrupt Boston aristocrat shipping ice to the tropics, to a confectioner who invented canning, to diseased cows in Manhattan distillery sheds producing milk that killed nearly 8,000 babies a year. Two of these stories are triumphs, and one of them is a genuine horror, and together they tell you exactly how fragile the food supply was before the machinery we now take for granted. Put these three stories side by side, and you can see the whole shape of the problem. Frederick Tudor spent a fortune and a stint in prison learning that keeping food safe was never really about a clever product. It was about building the infrastructure to support it. Nicholas Appert spent 14 years discovering a method that worked long before anyone could explain why. And the swill milk scandal shows you the price people paid in the most vulnerable lives imaginable whenever that infrastructure was missing and nobody was watching. Every one of these was an answer to the same quiet, constant danger, which is that food goes bad, and when it goes bad, it can kill you. And for most of human history, there was no reliable wall between your dinner and that fact. The ice trade, the tin can, and eventually, the regulations forced out of a scandal. Those were the walls people built by hand, one hard lesson at a time. So, the next time you open your refrigerator without a single thought, remember that the thing you are really looking at is the end of a very long fight, one that cost fortunes, took decades, and in one case in Manhattan, cost thousands of children their lives before anyone was forced to act. If you want more history buried inside the ordinary objects around you, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that like button so more people find it, and tell me down in the comments which of these three surprised you most, because I still cannot get the river detail out of my head.